beautiful, gorgeous beans of life with Nic and Bean unscripted. Yeah,
I'm Beanie.
I'm Nic.
We're going to take you on a journey of conversations that includes things like purple unicorns, aliens, real life stuff, and everything in between.
We can't wait to see where these conversations take us because I can guarantee you they're going to get pretty cray-cray.
Well, with you in the room, Nicola, anything can happen.
That is true. Thank you for joining us on our journey. If you have any input that you want to add to this channel, we would love to hear from you. In the meantime, let's get the show on the road. Hello, everybody. We are a little bit flat ski today. Not sure why, just a little bit flat ski, but as life would have it, life goes on. Sometimes you just have to show up and do the things that you're here to do and then go back to your little cubby hole and recluse for the next 24 hours, don't you think?
No, I mean, I don't think you have to recluse. No.
Well, if you want to have time to yourself because you're not totally in the zone of everything being absolutely amazing at any given point of time, you know, sometimes those moments are that you have to come back into your little wee self to have a little bit of wee recovery.
So after this, Nicola's going to go and be with her little wee self.
Yeah.
And be with perhaps your thoughts, Nicola.
Yeah, thoughts. Well, we're tossing and turning about what we're going to talk about today because there's obviously lots to talk about. But what I've discovered recently, I've been in a bit of a zone, I guess, for the last few months, probably 6 to be exact, because I've been in a space of no thing. And that no thing means that there's not much really going on in myself, my world, and except for waiting. And what I've really, you know, besides the discovery of, not the discovery, besides the fact of realizing that I've been here numerous times, and most of the time I get to a point where I'm absolutely fucking in shitsville because I struggle with doing nothing. And ultimately our goal in life, or what we're told, is to be purposeful and to have purpose, which I totally agree with. So, you know, being in that no thing is completely uncomfortable because you don't know when it's going to change. And so what I've been really investing in is obviously trying to stay in a level of, I mean, can I be absolutely honest? Like, there's been so many layers of discovery in this process. Like, it's a fucking seesaw, up, down, round and round, and then up and down, and like not really having any equilibrium at all, zero. Like, there was.
Do you really think you have no, like...
In the part, like I'm talking about starting from, you know, obviously selling the business and having nothing, no thing to turn my attention to.
Which is easy at first because you go, yay, I'm free, I'm having fun, I'm going to go on
holiday. We went to Melbourne.
Yeah.
All that stuff.
And now, like you're saying, like, I mean, because you're working, you're making bread.
I'm making bread,
which is really
working for a Bredesen. Look them up; they're fucking really great, gluten-free, awesome, wholesome, like all organic. Soak the nuts, soak the seeds, like they are legit.
Goodness.
They're all that good stuff. But that's taken. So I've sold the business on October. So I started a job in like 3 weeks ago. So that's, what are we in now? We're close to fucking May. That's a long time. And I mean, I filled this space. Obviously, we went to Vietnam and that was great. Went to Melbourne, as we said. But, you know, in between that, what I wanted to do, my personal goal through this process was to become a master at being able to be in no thing, because it is an immensely challenging thing.
Which is sorry to interrupt, might I add, like for you, I mean, for everyone, it's a really challenging thing because we have this idea of needing to have purpose and what are you doing with your life, and you have to become someone and you have to be this thing. Otherwise,
and you want to be something.
But my point is and there's documentaries on this, like people who have trained at a kind of quite elite level of sport struggle to do something outside of that, or to find that fulfillment, or to not be so goal oriented. So Nicola's very like point, shoot, got to get to the goal, need to have that purpose. Do you know what I mean? I think there's more of a purpose. I mean, we watched that show once, Catalyst or whatever it was, I can't remember, with the ex-Olympians, right? And even one of the women who was a high up doctor, she had a husband and kids and everything was perfect in her life, but it was still not enough because she'd never won a gold medal. And I just felt so strongly for her. And I know that you're not a world-class Olympian, but you did train at an elite level at the Institute of Sport. And I think that what I've seen over the last 18 years being in a relationship with you is you're extra hard on yourself, because without purpose, depression can come in really quickly. And don't get me wrong, like I flail around in my life. I've flailed around many times going, what am I doing? What's my purpose? Like everyone does it. Like everyone does it unless you are, I shouldn't say steeped in trauma and have to prove something. But for most people, there's people out there that get up and go and they have that template, they have that structure, they know what they're going to do. There's people that get out of bed every morning incredibly unconscious, clean their teeth, have their breakfast, shower, shave, whatever it is, get in the car, go to work, come home every night, watch TV, go to sleep. Not judging you if that's what you do, but you're not putting yourself under that pressure of what am I doing with my life, because you're just getting up every day and doing stuff, right? So there's many variables. Anyway, long story short, my point is I think I have seen it be more challenging for you because of that goal-oriented thing of having to be something.
Well, and also, you know, deeply, I want to have a fulfilling life. Like my sister passed away, you know, many years ago, and I decided in a moment that her life wasn't going to be in vain. And from that moment, I wanted to live a life to my highest potential, and I have been in pursuit of that since that time, because I was very asleep up until that point. I was very asleep. I'm very grateful that she passed away, and it's taken me a long time to come to that place, because, you know, there's lots of judgment that may come from that, but I'm quite at peace with being grateful for her passing, because without that, I wouldn't be who I am today. And so with this no thing, you know, I see everything in life as an opportunity and a challenge. And I love that. I love that. It makes me feel alive. It makes me want to be more of everything I possibly can be for my life. And so in the space of no thing, I have really invested a lot of time in reading a lot of fucking books, because the thoughts of not being enough and not having something and not, you know, being bored, you know, was so prevalent in my life. And it made me feel like a piece of shit. Like the reality is, you know, through these last 6 months, I'm fucking super grateful. I've got to a point where I'm super grateful that I've been able to have these 6 months, because I have grown so much.
Yeah.
I have raised myself to another level of really understanding that my purpose will be presented to me. It will be shown to me when my time is right. So I've surrendered. One of the greatest books to be written, and I've just recently read it, and I'm sure if you haven't read it, you should totally read it, is Michael Singer, The Surrender Experiment. And his life is absolutely gobsmacking fucking, you know, miracle. And one of the examples that I had of late is that I started, you know, working for this elderly company that, you know, help old people, blah, blah. Anyway, I thought it was a fucking great idea at the time. And, you know, it was a nice idea, you know, helping old people. But the reality is I then went to these houses, and ultimately, you know, a lot of them are hoarders, and their environment isn't that great. And it actually took me down a few notches. Like it got me quite sad. And I had a moment at this one recent place where I got quite anxious. And fortunately for me, I was able to sit back and be aware of the anxiety rather than my past, which is fucking totally engage in it and flip out. And then I went, oh, wow, this is interesting. Why is this happening? And then I realized at that point that this isn't probably something that is in my highest good, that doesn't make me feel fucking bubbly. Yes, it helps old people, but at the same time, I'm also having to compromise myself to be in an environment that doesn't
Too
really
much. Yeah.
to suit me. And so in that moment, you know, in the control mechanism and what we're taught and what we're shown in life, particularly in the healing world, and there is a definite realm to it, is understanding that, you know, if you don't see it in alignment, then you make the choice to get out of it. You know, you have to set those boundaries.
Change it.
Yeah.
You
But
don't always have to, like, I'm not saying you ran away, but like you don't always have to get out of it. Like
Yeah.
you can change it by
You can
standing in your power as well.
Yeah. But with the surrender experiment, it's basically I allowed myself to go, you know what, this isn't for me. But you know what? I signed up for these sessions to go to, these visits. I'm going to let the universe decide what is best for me. And ultimately, ironically, it was fucking uncanny what happened that day. I had 2 of the visits. So after the session, I had 2 clients that day. And after that session, 2 of those clients or the sessions in the preceding weeks got cancelled. Right. So I didn't have to go to them again. It was just crazy. And then the one after this, I've still got a couple clients. There's one after a week later, like in a couple of weeks, I've got this client. She cancelled, but it's reoccurring. So then there's some more sessions ahead. But I'm just interested because at the moment, the universe has gone, yeah, 100%, we're going to support you. And you know what I fucking love about this most?
What?
Is that it allows you to be in more peace. It allows, first of all, it allows you to be.
Because you trust?
Because you trust.
The
Because you give up total control.
Well, the universe really does have you back, is what it's showing you.
100%. And the connection that you form with the universe by exercising this experiment, inverted commas, is absolutely, you become, I am experiencing more gratitude and more love for the universe than what I did, you know, 4 weeks ago, because I'm forming a connection with the universe that is like a kinship. Do you know what I mean?
Not just that you got out of something.
What do you mean? Like with the sessions that got cancelled?
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
I love the universe now. I am so aligned. Yes.
Well, I mean, look, if the universe was to say that I've got to do these other visits that are, you know, in the future, you know, I choose to accept that as my responsibility with the partnership of co-creating. And that's where the word comes from, co-creating, and not to deviate from thoughts, but going back to thoughts, is that I got to that place of a much deeper connection and finding much greater peace through, one, reading a fuck ton of books that basically said the same thing over and over and over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
And then 2, becoming aware and working and understanding those thoughts that fucking make you feel not great.
Yeah.
You know, they don't make you feel good.
Like what? What? Give us an example of the thought.
Oh, well, I mean, like, perfect. I'm bored. Or
what's wrong with I'm bored though?
Technically nothing is wrong with being bored. In fact, being bored is a great space for expansion and new opportunities. But being bored in a negative context of what the mind generates.
So then you're not saying the statement I'm bored is the problem. You're saying when we go into boredom and then berate ourselves for being in boredom because we should be something else.
Yeah, we should be doing something else, or doing,
should be this, should be that.
You know, like why can't I be camping? Like if you go on Instagram and fucking Joe Blogs is camping and that FOMO shit happens, and it's like, again, Instagram is not a great mental health tool, right? It's actually a fucking sabotager from way back, and it will make you feel things, and becoming aware of what's actually happening when you're looking at Instagram and going, oh, now I let's say I do 2-3 scrolls, right? And then this feeling, I see something and I go, oh, fuck, there's that feeling. Close it down, to the point where, you know, I'm getting to a point where I I really don't. I mean, I don't want anything to do with it. It's just habit, unfortunately. But becoming aware of those thoughts and what makes you not feel great inside.
So examples of some thoughts then. Let's go like.
Well, what I thought, boredom is a thought. Like I've had boredom and that's taken me down in a space that's not great. What else is another thought that I've had?
So what could you change the word boredom to be then?
I don't think it's about, I mean, yes, you can change the word boredom. I think it's about acceptance. I think it's about acceptance.
Of nothing?
Of nothing. I think it's about acceptance. And you go, okay, let's say for me, because I'm very disciplined and so this space is very challenging. And so I would go, okay, today I'm going to meditate. And then let's say it's a really blank day and I have fucking nothing to do. But what
Everyone's going half your life.
I've really learnt to slow down and go, there is no rush. But books have been a big part of being able to keep me inspired, keep me motivated, keep me, learning, because I've read a quote from Pamela Anderson yesterday on Instagram, and her quote was, if if I'm learning, I know I'm on the right path. And I think that's such a beautiful quote. And I don't know where it came from or if it's hers, but it takes away the need to be something. And that's what I'm really also loving at the moment, is that need to not be anything. Like, I'm fucking highly focused on being everything, and to not be anything and accept the most simple things. I read this book by the lady that runs Oz Harvest, and she described about this guy who was an old dude. He was working for someone for all his life, and then he just wanted to help people with food and lower socioeconomic. Anyway, one day he was in his garden, right, doing his thing, and it was pissing down the rain. He wasn't in the garden, but he was outside anyway. It was pissing down the rain, and he saw this dad and two kids, and it was about high school time, right? And he thought to himself, that's weird. They're walking in the rain and they're dressed in school wear, right? And he shouts out to the guy, hey, mate, do you want to live somewhere? And the guy goes, oh, that would be great. And, he ended up taking him to where they need to go, which is obviously school. And this guy in the car ended up telling him that his wife was pregnant, his car was broke down, he hasn't been able to get his car fixed because he hasn't had regular income, and what I loved about that is that this old dude, and the book tells you more about the simplicity of his life, but this old dude was able to recognize that something wasn't quite right. Do you know what I mean? That he didn't just see this guy walking his kids in the rain and not think about what was potentially not right with that situation. He went, oh, they're walking in the rain and do you know what I mean? And that didn't make sense. Do you know what I mean? And then he offered, and I love that simplicity to that.
Of being able to just help people, or the thought, because we were talking about thoughts before, and then you just thought about that story, and that's.
Well, I took you to that story because it takes what I was talking about.
It's a beautiful story.
And it takes you to the simplicity of life. And what I was drawing on is that what I've had to become, and what I'm loving more about where I'm going and what I'm experiencing internally, is that I'm really focusing on the simplicity of life, because our thoughts make things complicated. They make things very driven, that we need to be here, we need to be earning this amount of money, we need to be fucking, socializing this amount of times, which is obviously important because connection is great. But, these thoughts, the more awareness you become, more aware you become on these thoughts, you can really start taking control. When I say control, inverted commas, of your life, by being able to surrender that you don't have to have control, you just have to let go.
Yeah.
And that's the simplicity of it.
Well, I think if you were to look at all your thoughts, you would be an absolute mad person. And this is where people get into a pickle anyway, is by, one, trusting all of their thoughts 2, not just witnessing them, but buying into them, right? And 3, acting on them or not acting on them, depending on which way they're coming at you, right? So I think to become a witness is the most powerful, one of the most powerful things you can do, because being able to bear witness to your thoughts, and some of, right? Like not even all of your thoughts. There's so many thoughts that will go through your head, 70,000 or whatever a day. So I have so many random thoughts that pop into my head. When I go to bed at night, most of the time, not all the time anymore, but like I would get like just flickers of different images. Like I've got a very fast, ADHD vibe brain that goes, I can't acknowledge all of those things, and nor should I. When I go down the path of dissecting all of the things that are happening and all of the things that have just come through, or trying to even catch them, it creates anxiety for people, right? So I guess first witnessing the thoughts if you need to, and not giving weight. Like we know that they say neurons that wire together fire together, right? So if something comes into our mind and we catch it, and then we mull it over a little bit, and then we go into more thoughts about it and add emotions and feelings around it, we're like literally adding more weight to this idea, right? And this identity. So when you're saying like in that space of nothingness, and then you get that thought coming and going, I should be doing something, then you'll add to it going, what am I doing with my life? And then you'll add to it, oh my God, I'm not like enough. And then you'll go back into your subconscious mind and you'll travel all the way back from this life, other lives, wherever you want to go to, and add all of those to it. And before you know it, you've got Noah's Ark and every emotion's an animal. And like you got your little ship, you can toot your horn and go off sailing, but you're probably not going to be a merry sailor in that space, because all you've done is collect a whole bunch of reasons, identities, whatever, which the ego loves and says, give me all of those and I'll turn it into something solid, right? And that gets you in that funk of sitting in your shit longer than you need to, or thinking that instead of just having boredom being a nice, relaxing presence of nothingness, you're filling it, right? So without even realizing it, you could turn around and say, I've done nothing today. But really, most of the time people will say, but I wasn't just sitting there staring at a tree. I was sitting there berating myself, going into all the reasons why I'm not enough because I'm not doing anything. When am I going to become something? Oh, that's right. Dad never told me I was enough when I was younger, and my brother was always good enough. I don't have a dad that said that, I don't have a brother, but like it's an example, right? We'll go back in time with these thoughts, and like I said, they'll just get more and more justified.
And that's a great point. And what helps me become more and more aware of this is how I'm feeling. Do you know what I mean? Like there's such a, like you'd wake up in the morning, right? Things are pretty good. Life is, I'm fucking literally very, very fortunate. But then thoughts happen, and then slowly but surely you have a decline. And I was saying this to my friend the other day. Okay, I'm good up until about 2:00, and then I'm fucking downward twos, and
downward twos.
It's a real thing, because it's
also an adrenal thing. Like there's a hormonal, like, do you know what I mean? Like adrenal fatigue, 2 to 4 kind of vibe as well.
I believe you. Look, whatever. At the end of the day,
why you always go for something sugary in the afternoon. That was sugar eating.
At the end of the day, I don't want to feel like that I have this clock of how long I'm going to be okay for until I'm, at the end of the day, I become aware of how I'm feeling, and my heart, like I become clearer with my heart and what doesn't make me feel good. And then if I'm not feeling great, I mean, I'm reading Deepak Chopra at the moment. It's called Abundance Book. It's pretty great. It's pretty basic, but it's got some great golden nuggets in there. And one of the things that he said with emotions, and I thought was really cool, because we never really do it when it happens, or thoughts, is that if you're not feeling great, that you take a moment to breathe, and you envisage a white light in your chest, and then it goes up to your crown chakra, and then it comes back down and it goes to your feet, and you're just basically constantly breathing. And I think that tools like that, when you're feeling not great, is that, you know, you harness tools like that, or you go, well, what does make me happy? And ultimately, I love listening to music. You know, I like cooking. Even when you're in a funk like today, you know, I wasn't feeling ultimately, you know, being my bubbly, amazing self for whatever reason. Sometimes you just have to show up doing whatever it is that you're here to show up for. But ultimately, you show up, you always feel better after. You always feel better after, because why? You showed up. You had integrity. You owned you own the integrity, and you owned your accountability to what it is that you committed to.
You're also like taking yourself out of the mind.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, you're adding physical movement to that. So like, whenever someone has anxiety or something, I go, get out, change your environment, do something different, distract yourself. It's a distraction, right? So we're doing something, like working with your hands, you're doing something, you're taking yourself out of mind. That's why walking meditations are good. In essence, you can become present in what is around you, is nature, right? So it's, even though it's taking you out of here, it's bringing you into presence more. So in essence, when you're just sitting in your thought, like, it can run away from you,
It can,
right? And this is where you have to be a witness for so much, and not for stuff as well, right? Discern what is worthy of keeping really, really quickly, because this happens like hundredths of a second. And before you know it, you can go, this is where the witnessing is so powerful, because you go, fuck, I just had 10 minutes of going down this rabbit hole and I didn't even realize it. But if I look back, I was, you know, you think about when that first thought happened, and then you've told yourself story after story after story, adding on. And this isn't like a big deal story. This is like, oh, I thought that thing, I wonder about this, oh, it could be this, but maybe it's this, but I bet they're this, I bet it's that, I bet this happened, no, what if it happens there? And before you know it, like, you've given yourself like so many different like variables of this one thought. And again, it's all just wiring, and then you can either feel really good about whatever you're thinking, or really shit about whatever you're thinking, or frustrated or whatever. And then people are like, well, why am I frustrated? Most people don't even like ask why they're frustrated, because they don't even realize they've just done this 10-minute thing. And it could be like, you know, it's like when you get angry at people in traffic, you know, like if you're feeling really balanced and really sharey and open and loving in your heart, and someone cuts you off, you're like, that's okay. Not in a like, I'm letting people walk all over me kind of thing, but it's like, you need it. I don't need it. Don't care, right? And then there's the other person that gets cut off, and they're like, you're ruining my life, like, and really reactive. And it's that saying I always use. It's like the worker gets yelled at by the boss. He goes home, she goes home, and yells at the partner. The partner yells at the child kicks the cat, right? Like, instead of being responsible for the first feeling or thought that created all of that cycle, and being really self-aware, we allow it to perpetuate and then really pollute all areas of our life if we want to, right? Without taking any accountability of where that thing started. And sometimes it can literally start from one tiny little thought that you grab onto and allow to fester, and then the ego will go like it's meant to. Because the ego is designed to help you, really, in essence, and keep you safe, the original. And so if you say, I'm not a great person, then the ego will go and search for everything in that. So if you have this thought or a response, you leave say a coffee you're having with someone or whatever, and like, I've got people who have spoken to me about, like, you know, they'll leave a situation and then they'll berate themselves in the car about, oh, they said too much, or they shouldn't have said that thing, and oh, they're an idiot. And then they sit there, and then the next thing, the ego is going to go into, I want to be helpful for you, and you've just told me that you think you're not a good person, so I'm going to find all of the reasons now for you why you're not. Right? And we always blame the ego and go, I've got to shut down my ego. And it's like, you don't need to shut it down. You need to recognize what it's there for
and be aware.
And guide it to what you want, because we're guiding the ego to collect evidence for us in a space that is hurtful to us without even realizing it. And that's what, just to close up with that, that is what happens when we only witness our thoughts and don't do any action on them to change them. And I think that's the most important part. You can just either not take on the thoughts in the first place and allow them to get into something, or when you do witness something, either mold it into what you want it to be or what you don't want it to be, right? And take action on that.
I was just thinking about the thoughts that that I've had. You know, I think about YCA. God, how long was I in a pit of shit for? Like fucking wanting desperately to be over, and that thought, you know, such a strong thought. Why can't this be over? You know, one, lack of acceptance. Two, that thought just went to a spiral of my fucking 4.5 years at the shop, or the pain, or the suffering, all the thing. You know, there was no, and victim consciousness in a lot of ways.
It's a lot of victim, like when you get into those cycles, right? Because it's about me.
As me, my suffering, my, you know, lack, my everything. And it's, you know, when you know, and the thought I was thinking, another thought that I've had just in the space of the last 6 months, you know, I wonder what my purpose is, you know. So wonder is a great word. Curious as fuck, wonder. What ego does is go, oh, I'm still here, and labels, gets attachments, creates meaning, emotions, feelings, distraught, anger, frustration, blah, blah, blah. And then it's fucking on repeat. And then so that wonder of curiosity becomes not even a great thing anymore, because my ego decides that it's a great tool to leverage off to take me to a space. Because ultimately the ego, or thoughts, you know, ego will wants us to be in pain, wants us to be in suffering, wants us to be in drama. Why? Because it means that it can keep active and keep as though it belongs, it has worth.
Yes, but if you get it to do the opposite, it can do the other as well.
I think the ego ultimately, personally for me, I understand that some may believe their ego is great when used purposefully, and
some being me.
Yeah, you. and to be honest, I get a bit convoluted as to where that ego has a positive, because, you know, let's say you're jumping off a cliff, right? The ego is going to go, well, I'm not sure about safe, you know, blah, blah, blah. But then there's adrenaline, and then there's excitement, and then there's a challenge. So where does the ego fit there? Because to me, the ego is there to keep you safe, but ultimately intuition, heart intelligence is the absolute golden nugget in our derivative to finding peace. And the ego will always try to manipulate, keep us in pain, keep us in drama, because it will feel worth there. And if so there's the ego, and then there's the mind. The mind works really well intellectually with the heart, right? So the heart gets a message of intuition, and the mind goes, I can help you with that. And it will give you tactical reasons as to how that will take place. Yeah. Where the ego, unfortunately, it's a separate voice. It's a voice, and you can give your voice many, many sounds. As Beanie tells me a great story with this client that she had once, where, you know, she was having voices in her head, and whatever else. I think she had multiple personality disorder or something like that, didn't she?
She did have.
Yeah. And they and Beanie went, well, why don't we give it another voice? You know, and maybe it sounds different. And I think, you know, I mean, one, that's very creative. Two, that's fucking amazing, because when you're in that space, even stopping one thought would be fucking impossible, let alone multiple thoughts. So, you know, there's always a way around the ego. There's always a way around the ego. It's just being able to work with it to understand.
Which is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you're saying there's no place for it. And I'm saying, no, it just needs to be integrated.
It depends on what level you're operating at. To me, I think a non-ego environment would be very peaceful. But if you have multiple egos or multiple voices or multiple whatever, I think then
it's not
you
just the
can.
ego though. Like, you know, like it's not multiple. It's like multiple characters. You're saying maybe,
sure.
which is, you know, that mind as well.
And
And obviously, the aim is to be egoless, right, or egoless,
yeah,
right? But at the same time, we're in a body, and this is what I've had many conversations with many people, and to not have an ego. But I am yet to see a human that doesn't get triggered or respond to something. So as long as we are responding and or sometimes reacting to things, and I know that there's people in my life that I would say that they are the closest thing to being egoless, but I've still seen the human.
yeah, for sure. And I'm
Right.
not, and with saying that, I say I
And
also.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I don't necessarily want to get rid of my lessons and my teachings. And I think that the ego I respect as the best signal response for me to grow and learn.
Yeah, but you just said past teachings and learnings. You can never forget those. They become your wisdom. It's totally irrelevant to your ego.
No,
Wisdom.
I'm not talking about past wisdom. I'm talking about the ego now to catch me up on things that I do.
Is that your
Right,
ego,
and
or
show
is
me-
that your ego that's doing that, or is that
Yeah,
actually your
like
intellect?
if I think I'm all is well, and then something goes, eek, and then I go, oh, there's something to look at there.
For sure.
Great, thank you for helping me, because I don't want to be under an illusion
Yep.
that I am. I mean, not the illusion that I'm smooth sailing, but
Because that could be
that's amazing,
that
but
could be
if
healing as well.
for sure it can, and I'm not saying I can't be smooth sailing.
Yeah.
I'm just saying if there is an iceberg,
Yeah.
I would like to see it so I can do something about it. And I believe that the ego is my fantastic signaler to go, oh, you've still got a thing around that.
About the Titanic, about the iceberg.
No, about something, whatever that iceberg is. Like I'm
I've represented.
yeah, I'm sailing my ship, potentially in ego too, thinking that my shit doesn't stink and I'm smooth sailing and nothing is going to touch me, right? And then all of a sudden the ego goes, see that iceberg there? And I go, I did not
Yeah.
see that iceberg. So thank you for showing me.
Yeah.
But I could also be in the other side of the ego going, I've got all of my shit together and I'm on a boat and look at me sail.
Well, I mean,
Right? Rather than just going,
yeah,
go me, thank you very much. It's such a fine line.
it is a fine line.
Because so the whole thing about allowing yourself to celebrate while staying humble.
Yeah, I think humbleness or humility isn't something that the ego is there to remind us of. I think it's understanding.
Can knock you on your ass pretty quick.
It can, but I think humility or humbleness is the ability to go, understand that we are all one.
The ego is humbling. Right, depending on how we do it, then you're talking about being graceful in it, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm saying humbling as in, you think everything's great and then all of a sudden you get shown this thing, right? That can be humbling. You could turn around and do it really badly, the reaction to it. I would like to do it with grace and go, oh, didn't see that iceberg. Awfully sorry. Thank you for showing me.
So if we think big of ourselves, not big of ourselves, if we become a little bit self-righteous, right? I'm just wondering, this is a question. If we become a little bit self-righteous and we go, oh, my shit doesn't stink. I'm sailing this Titanic and I'm fucking sweet. I'm good. You're saying that's ego, which it is, or pride. Is it pride? Is pride and ego the same thing?
No.
See, so okay,
but it's used in the
ego.
same way because people say, don't let pride get in the way.
Yeah.
Right. And I've always said to that statement, it's don't let your ego get in the way.
Mm.
Because to be proud of oneself, like there's nothing wrong with that. If you've done some hard work and you're really proud of the outcome and you're really proud of everyone that worked with you, like I don't see a problem with that. That's acknowledgement.
So,
and recognition of performance, right? So pride in turning around and saying, I'm too good to do that job is ego.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's, do you know what I mean? So it's
Which is,
confusing, like
yeah.
in that sense of which word you use. And there's going to be people like my mum, if she was ever to watch this, who will bring her English teacher and Britishness into this and explain why they're the same thing or different in a technical way. But to me, being proud of yourself doesn't have to come into ego that is allowing you in a loving way
To be seen.
acknowledge.
Yeah.
Well, to see yourself.
Yeah, to yourself as well.
It's not to be seen. It's to see yourself and go, I'm really proud of the hard work that I've done, or I'm really proud of it. You know, for me, I'm really proud of myself that I got through anxiety and learned to witness my thoughts and ignore them, because I would witness my thoughts and perpetuate them. And that's what got me into anxiety. And those thoughts didn't go away anytime soon. I just stopped listening to them, right? I didn't know what I was doing back then. I didn't have any tools. I didn't have any insights as to what you're supposed to do in these spaces. I just got to a point where I went, if I keep listening to my mind, I am going to go like
Looney Boon.
Out of my mind, right? Like,
Out of your mind.
which you'd want to do because you don't want to be in your mind. But like, I'm really proud of myself that I got through that. I
was thinking, and thank you for talking about the ego. I think when you say it about that, you know, with ego, there's two parts that I now feel within myself. That peace is ultimately what I seek for the mind, but also understanding that the ego is positive when keeping us in check of what shadows that still remain for us to heal.
Yes.
Which is perfect. And I just had this thought about, though, if this is going to really put fingers on the axis, is that the ego that's going, you see something and it triggers something? Is the ego the trigger, or is it behavior? Is it behavior or a past life? Is it behavior or something from your past that needs to be healed? So is that still your ego, or is that trauma? So you're talking about the iceberg?
Yeah.
Now, if you
That's
saw
the iceberg.
That's the iceberg, but that potentially might not be your ego. It could be your trauma that's triggered you into going, oh, fuck, actually, I still need to work on that.
Yes, but where do your beliefs come from about that? So you're saying that's a past belief, right? Like you have like a past belief of that.
Yeah.
And then it gets triggered in you now, right? So you're talking about conscious versus unconscious, but the ego will come through the unconscious as well, right?
Yeah.
Like as a thing of like, no, going into technicals now. I don't want to go into that much technicality, but like you've got like, so you're responding, you're reacting from the unconscious, subconscious.
Yes. Which is
where your beliefs are.
What your beliefs are.
Right. And what is stored in your
saying
physical body and your being.
And you're saying they're formed from your ego.
Yeah, because it's a response, right? And then your conscious mind and your like soul, I would say, your connection to consciousness and conscious mind and consciousness together overrides that to change it.
Yeah.
Or
and your level of awareness.
Or energy as well.
Yeah.
Right. Because if this was a kinesiology session, I'm working always through your subconscious mind.
Yeah.
Talking to your conscious mind.
Yeah.
About what shows up subconsciously, and then also clearing it with energy. And
it's interesting
and neurological pathways, because again, neurons that wire together, fire together, wire together. So then over time, the belief over time and the evidence of that belief coming together will make it a thicker belief. Right. So it will already show up. So it's neurological as well. Like it's neural pathways, it's primitive like nervous system all connected into one, having that response, right? It's pretty deep. That's not technical because I'm not technical.
But I hope you got all that, because that and it's interesting when we think about these beliefs and that they've stimulated from the ego, and we go back to that place, how quickly things can form in our past life or our beliefs and our past, like I remember going to this course. What was that course I went to? It's ABC. Anyway, basically it's like this analogy. You've got this dictionary on your shoulder, and it's got all the words in the world that you've used in this dictionary, but each word.
What would you have? Fuck.
No, yeah. But each of these words, so this is your own dictionary. Each of these words is the meaning that you have associated to that word. And I find that a really great analogy to when we think about our life in the past and what has been. Obviously there's lots of blame with parents and life and blah, 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 and all that trauma that can come from that. It's just interesting how quickly it can form without us having any understanding until we become more conscious and aware.
You don't realize that I get it. You don't realize that the subconscious beliefs are being formed.
Yes.
Until it shows up somewhere.
Yeah.
But some people never do. Some people live their whole life and they have no idea of what the subconscious trauma, the beliefs and where it comes from. And people will go through their life going, why do I keep repeating this pattern? Why do I always feel this way? And
can I just interlude? And that's exactly, why did this habit of being caught in such a trap when I had no thing happen, in a regular, because to me, I needed to master this. Like anything in my own belief is that we need to master certain parts of our lives so that karma can be eluded forever. Is elude the right word? Can be eradicated forever. Do you know what I mean? I feel as though I needed to master this.
I feel like karma is not something that gets eradicated; it gets balanced.
Okay, whatever.
Like karma is a out to in, right? So you change your karma by say you haven't been great in one life, then you have to play out that karma until you balance it out with good.
For sure, but I mean, is it balancing out with good, or is it just understanding there was a karma to be learned for you to, to live your ultimate value?
It depends on what you believe, but I believe that as an energy force, what goes out comes back.
Okay.
Right? It's kind of like that balance of yin and yang, black and white, out, in. Okay. All of that. So that's why I said it has to balance out.
Yeah.
That's a whole different.
And I just want to say, because I feel like this has been a great conversation about thoughts, and I hope you guys agree. And if you don't, that's okay too.
Either way, let us know. Comments are really good.
Yeah. Is that, I go back to when I was going through anxiety and really negative spiral, is that I did give my ego a higher pitch. Oh, don't be silly.
What do you mean?
Like you give it a funny sound.
All right, you gave it a voice.
I gave it a voice. I gave it a funny voice because it made me funny. It made me feel lighter. That kind of thing. And so when you're talking about integrating the ego, that's a perfect example.
Gotcha.
You know what I'm saying?
I understand. So have fun with the ego. Don't let it break you.
If you're in that space, or if you want to just null it like a motherfucker like I do, read a shit ton of books, stay in alignment, stay focused, remind yourself that you are stardust and that we are cosmic beings that are here to fulfill all our desires, but there's no time. There's no time frame.
There's heaps of time.
There's heaps of time. We've got all the time in the world. No need to feel stressed, people. No need to feel stressed about where you're going, what you're doing, how you're doing it, how much money you're doing, and fucking chill the fuck out. Relaxo, waxo, hug a dog or a cat or any animal, and they will give you a shit ton of love, and just relax into the space of knowing that you are cared for and that you have the potential of infinity. That's not a word.
And don't buy into all your thoughts.
Don't buy into it.
That's what we're talking about.
Don't purchase a unlimited buy card voucher
of thoughts.
It's not a good value proposition.
So, thank you for joining us on this podcast. We hope you got something out of it. If you did like it, please press the like button, and subscribe to our channel. and I'll have to go and deal with this nutcase over here. But yeah, please like, subscribe, leave a comment, tell your friends, share it with someone if you found it interesting. And we love you all very much, and we hope you have a fabulous day.
Till then, bye.